The extreme weather has brought much tragedy with it. The latest report released by the Disaster Management Centre this evening revealed that the number of deaths from natural disasters over the past few days has risen to 58. According to the report, 132 people are unaccounted for, while over 400,000 people have been affected. Now, News First also took to the skies to witness the chilling devastation that has been caused by the extreme weather situation. Entire communities washed away in just a few days. Now, the Department of Irrigation is warning that the water levels of the Kalini River still indicate a severe flood situation. The Water Science Unit, the Hydrology Unit rather, of the department noted that the water levels of the Kalini River were at 7.65 feet, according to the water gauge located at Nagalagam Street. This was a considerable increase compared to the level this morning.
With the assistance of the Sri Lanka Navy, a news was team today toured many areas which were affected after the Kalini River broke its banks.
දවස් 4ක් තිස්සේ මෙතනට වතුර මාත්‍යා කණ්ඩවත් නැහැ මිනිස්සුන්ට.
අද තාමත් මේ පැත්ත යට වෙලාද කියලාවත් බලන්න කවුරුත් නැහැ.
මේ වැල්ලම්පිටිය සේදවත්ත ප්‍රදේශයේ කඩුපැලැල්ල හන්දිය.
This is the Katupalalle area in Sedavatta Vallampitiya. The entire area is inundated. It is reported that around 250 persons have been affected in the area near the 5th mile post.
මේ ප්‍රදේශයේ පහේ කණු ප්‍රදේශයේ අනාරක්ෂිතව කොට වී තිබෙන බව පවසති.
The low-level road from Sedavatta to Ambagaha Junction today was witnessed as a waterway. News First visited Vannavatta and moved to Polvatta via Katupalalla and noticed that the water levels had risen compared to yesterday. Locals say that the water levels are gradually increasing. The team then moved from Vallampitiya to the Ambagaha Junction on the inundated low-level road. Both sides of the road were flooded, while some areas were 6 feet underwater.
මම මේ රැඳී සිටින්නේ කොළඹ අවිස්සාවේල පරණ මාර්ගයේ වැල්ලම්පිටිය ප්‍රදේශයේ. මේ මාර්ගයේ
This is the Colombo Avissavela Old Road. The entire road section has been inundated. To my right is Avissavela from Vallampitiya. The road is inundated all the way up and the locals residing in the area are heading towards Vallampitiya for safety.
ලැබෙන්නේ ඒ මාර්ගයේ දෙපස පදිංචි ජනතාව මේ ආකාරයෙන් වැල්ලම්පිටිය ප්‍රදේශයේ එනවා ආරක්ෂිත බව තහවුරු කරගන්න.
The Sri Lanka Navy rescued 3 persons trapped in a house in a byroad of the Ambagaha Junction.
මේ ඔබ දකින්නේ වැල්ලම්පිටිය ප්‍රදේශයේ ගම් වතුර කොට වී සිටින ජනතාව.
What you see is a rescue operation to move people trapped in Vallampitiya to safe locations. News First today, with the assistance of the Sri Lanka Navy, visited Vallampitiya to inquire into the flood situation. These 3 people were trapped for days in their house because of the flood and are being rescued by the sailors. Despite the rising flood waters, there were some who continue to remain in their homes. The waters have been rising for 3 days. The reason why people did not leave this area is because of the fear of losing their belongings. The police must provide security. The police must patrol this area at least 3 times during the day and at night. It is not taking place. The supply of water and electricity to the area has been suspended and the people who continue to remain are facing a situation of discomfort due to this. Relief teams noted that those who remain are being provided with cooked meals. They also face a risk with regard to sanitation and drinking water. The Sri Lanka Navy, the police together with the locals have commenced operations to rescue people trapped in the area. People have left everything they own behind and are moving to safer locations. The area surrounding the Kalupalama in Sedavatta was completely inundated. A rope was set across the path of the floodwaters to rescue those who were trapped, while many houses suffered damages.
මම දැන් රැඳී සිටින්නේ කළුපාලම රේල් පාර උඩ.
I am on the train tracks on Kalupalama. Behind me is the Sedavatta main road. A rope has been set across the waterways to move people back and forth. The water is also contaminated with oil. The water levels in the area surrounding the Kalupalama were on the rise this evening.
Everything got washed away. My house was washed away by the flood waters. I have nothing left. My clothes, my identity card, my marriage certificate and everything else was washed away. We have nothing to eat or even wear. The clothes are of no use. My kitchen was washed away.
A large number of persons who were affected by the floods have taken refuge atop the Kalani Bridge in Paliagoda. These persons, including children, are currently staying inside tents and freight containers. Donors made their way to the location to provide cooked meals to the affected.
There is food for the adults, but there are children here as well. Please provide us with some milk powder with some sugar.
There is no water for us to drink. The women do not have proper sanitation facilities.
Another group was displaced in Totalanga.
It's been 4 days and we're yet to see the arrival of a responsible authority. We cannot even study for the exams because the books were destroyed by the waters. We don't mind if we do not have to eat. All we need is a place to live.
This is the area surrounding Totalanga. The water levels of the Kalani River in the area were also on the rise. Colombo District Secretary Sunil Khannangura, speaking to News First, said that 150,000 persons have been affected by the floods. Programs to provide relief to the affected are taking place at various levels, while the three armed forces and the Sri Lanka police are coordinating rescue operations. Rescue operations by the Sri Lanka Army took place even during the early hours of today.
More tragedy in the Central Hills. Search operations are continuing for people reported missing following the major landslide in the Aranayaka area, in Siripura in the Aranayaka area. The commander of the Security Forces West, Major General Sudanta Ranasinghe, says that 144 people are still unaccounted for.
Vialangapitiya settlement, Debatgama and Pallebagi villages in the Siripura area in Aranayaka were buried by the landslide. The Sri Lanka Army-led search operations got underway for the second day today. Search operations were hampered by the heavy downpours experienced in the area. Commander of the Security Forces West, Major General Sudanta Ranasinghe, said while a total of 14 bodies have been found so far, several limbs were found today. Major General Ranasinghe added that operations will continue unhindered despite the bad weather. More than 66 homes have been destroyed in the Aranayaka landslide. We make a plea from those residing in areas at risk to evacuate from those areas until further notice.
Nearly 2,500 people who were displaced by the landslide in Aranayaka have taken refuge at 14 shelters, including the Rajagiriya Mahavidyalaya, the Dippitiya Malpa Viharya, the Ambalakanda Vidyalaya and the Ambalakanda Viharya.
Ever since their homes were buried when the Siripura mountain gave way, nearly 100 families were forced to take refuge at the Rajagiriya Mahavidyalaya. A total of nearly 500 people have taken refuge at the school. These victims of nature's destruction were left with nothing but the clothes they had on their backs.
Everything was taken away. It is just the 5 of us now. My mother, sister, her husband and everyone from my brother's family are missing. We cannot live there and neither do we have any place else to stay. We only ask that we be provided with a place to stay. Around 5:30 we heard the noise of a plane. The earth had given way. It was just my daughter and I who were at home. There was a stone house close by. My daughter and I stayed there. When I came out late on, everything was destroyed by the landslide.
Even though the Siripura mountain range is the cause for their woes today, the people here were dependent on the mountain for their livelihoods. Many of the residents here sustain themselves by plucking tea leaves from this mountain range. This is Ranjani. The News First team, which visited the Rajagiriya Mahavidyalaya where Ranjani has now taken refuge, were met with the emptiness in the eyes of her 3 children.
The sensitive story behind these faces is that most of these families are waiting for their father, their mother, their brother and sister. They are waiting until they come back. No news have been given to them if they are dead, but the only thing they know is that their family were the victims of the landslide.
Meanwhile, the bodies of 14 people who went missing in the landslide which occurred in Kalupahanawatta Bulat Kohupitiya were found today.
The Sri Lanka Army said that the bodies of 9 females and 5 males were found. The bodies of 4 children were among those found today. 250 people from 31 families have been provided shelter at the Sri Silananda Mahavidyalaya in Bulat Kohupitiya due to the threat of landslides. Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Army took measures to create an alternative route to rescue those trapped by the landslide which occurred at the Beravilla mountain in Kampala. However, after creating a 1 kilometer stretch of road, the Sri Lanka Army had to abandon their operation due to the heavy downpours. While around 800 people from 195 families have been displaced by the landslide, all access routes to the village are destroyed. According to our correspondent, the Sri Lanka Army will recommence the operations to create an access route to the village. Meanwhile, Emeritus Professor at the University of Pedathenia, Kapila Bahanayaka, said that there are 10 more locations in the Central Hills which are under threat from landslides.
There are many areas in the Central Hills which have not experienced landslides as yet but are at risk from landslides. Landslides could further affect Matale, Kandy, Nuwara Eliya, Ratnapura, Kegol, Gaul, Mathura and Hambantota. Hilly areas in these districts are at risk from landslides. After sustained rainfall over several days, when a sudden downpour is experienced, the soil is sheared away.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe visited Vallampitiya today to assess the impact of the disaster.
The people of Vallampitiya revealed the hardships they are facing after the severe weather wreaked havoc in many parts of the island. Meanwhile, State Minister of Defence Ruwan Wijewardena also set off to assess the plight of the people in the Gampaha district who were severely affected by the floods. Ruwan Wijewardena travelled by boat to reach the location. The State Minister also distributed aid to the people. Later in the day, Wijewardena addressed the situation in several other areas affected by the floods in the Gampaha district with the help of a helicopter.